Okay, I think we're live, boys. So, you can see the title. I got rejected 15 times today in London. So, today is the 10th of December, 2025. And yeah, pretty self explanatory title. I just came back from a session in the capital and I wanted to, give you my thoughts, my raw, fresh thoughts on how the session went, and my main takeaways, some highlights, and some key lessons. So yeah, obviously, if you don't know who I am, my name's Ian. I'm 28 years old. I live in the UK, and yeah, I have an economics background. I also used to be a data analyst, currently transitioning into tech sales. And yes, the reason I started this channel, the reason I'm doing this stream is because my dating life used to suck. It used to be terrible. Couldn't get any options. And after learning daytime cold approach more than a year ago, I transformed my dating life for the better. And yeah, I've had lots of experiences, particularly in the last 4 months after getting coaching. And yeah, it's been quite the journey. And so yes, today's session was the first session that I've had since Thailand. So I actually haven't approached anybody since I came back from Thailand. And I came back from Thailand 11 days ago. So going into today's session, I was expecting to be a little bit rusty. Although I say that with reservation because I think I'm at the point now where I don't necessarily get rusty if I don't approach for more than a week or two because I've done so many reps at this point and I've been coached as well. So I feel as if I can just switch it on to the level that it needs to be, which I certainly think was the case today because I had some early decent interactions today. I can see Mo's comment. What's up, Mo? So Mo says, "Well, you went in. That's what matters. I think it's obvious that it didn't bother you." Yeah, I mean, I've had days like this, right? You're gonna have days where you just get rejected all the time because and I'll dive into why, but the girl has a boyfriend, she's not interested, she's in a hurry, you struggle to stop the girl. There's a million different reasons why, and I've had these days before, so it's nothing new to me, and it can't bother me because I've already developed some emotional resiliency, which is something I'll also talk about. But anyway, let's get straight into the day. So yeah, like I said, going into it, I was hoping to get a date, so I'm going to Kenya this Friday, and I don't really have time to go on dates from tomorrow onwards. So let's say my goal was to maybe try and get a date for tonight, since it's my last available night, and it would be a nice story to tell as my first session back from Thailand in London. So that was my intention going into it. But of course, at the same time, I didn't want to be too attached to any particular outcome because I know that Code Approach is a lottery. Like the game is a lottery. You can't always predict. In fact, you can't predict what's going to happen. Of course, the more reps you put in, the more likely you are to get what you want. But as you can see in the title, I mean, I put in 15 reps, and I think they were 15 good reps. At least above standard. So yeah, the fact that I didn't get what I wanted is it's possible. It's part of the process, and I want to be fully transparent about that because the reality is when you're doing this, most girls won't like you. Most girls probably won't be interested, but we don't need all girls to be interested, right? So, but yeah, I think another thing before I dive into the day, I think just a general thought that I had, well, a general thought I have now having done the session is, you know, I was in Thailand and Thailand is also a big city. Sorry, I was in Bangkok and Bangkok is a big city, 10 million people, pretty chaotic, pretty busy. But that being said, it's the pace of life isn't as frantic as London. Like London is still, I still think, based on all the cities I've traveled to, it's still the highest paced city. People are always in a hurry. People are always moving fast, and it requires a lot more conviction to get the girls to stop. And so I think that's something that I naively, let's say, forgot about or didn't really consider especially now that this is my first session back in the UK since Thailand. I think I should have been a bit more. I should have been a bit more like wary of the fact that, you know, I was going to have to be a bit, let's say, more direct, or just put a bit more effort in like getting in front and stopping the girl, and also, you know, having a more commanding, louder voice, being more expressive, etc. Because so much is going on, and people are so locked in on going to where they're going to, that yes, it can sometimes be it can sometimes be a tough thing to I guess just get over, or to approach in the right way. So yeah, I think that's like a first quick lesson that I had. But yeah, other than that, I think in general, as the session went on, my my goal was to be louder again, because it was quite loud already. The streets were quite loud, so I felt like I could be a bit louder with my open, and then also just acting faster, because it was very busy at points, especially when I got to like the dense pedestrian areas. And so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't taking too long to approach, because the longer you take, the more you hesitate, and then you lose conviction. You know, it sort of drains. Like, imagine you see the girl, like as soon as you see the girl and you think, I want to approach her, like you get this jolt of energy, and the longer you wait, the more that energy sort of drops, and it just decreases and decreases and decreases. And yeah, it can be pretty tough to sort of yeah, to I mean, yeah, you wanna like make the most of it, is what I'm trying to say. And so that was something I noticed early. I mean, it's not like I was taking too long, but I just wanted to, you know, like go in as quickly as possible, just to maximize that boost. And then the next, I guess the final point that or the final area of my approach that I really wanted to improve as the day went on, was making sure that my smile didn't drop, because of course I experienced quite a few blowouts. And typically in the past, if I experienced lots of blowouts in a row, I might lose some enthusiasm, and I didn't want that to be the case. And when I lose enthusiasm, I maybe unconsciously lose my smile, or it's not as wide or bright or disarming. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't letting that drop. So I just made a like intentional choice to maintain that as much as possible when the blowouts were happening. But either way, I guess I'll talk about the highlights. So obviously 15 approaches. I only got one Instagram, and yeah, I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. I don't even think she's actually accepted my request yet. Maybe she has. I haven't checked, but yeah, that was a decent convo. But I'll get into that later. But I guess I'll speak about it in chronological order. So yeah, I guess the first, let's say, highlight was this blowout from this girl that I approached. She was to be fair, she was one of the most attractive girls, like on the like in the street. Like of all the girls I approached, she was like arguably 9 out of 10, right? And this might have been, let's say, just before halfway through my session. And yeah, so I saw her, and I turned around, and this was a very busy street, so I had to take a bit more time to find a good space to introduce myself. Otherwise, I would have just ran into people. And so I finally found that opening. It wasn't the best. It was a fairly messy approach. But I think I was fairly loud, because at this point I'd already been telling myself, be louder, be louder, be louder. So I think I was fairly loud, said excuse me, and I like kind of gestured to get her attention, and then she finally had my attention. I think she had earphones in. And I kid you not, as soon as I said excuse me, and then she just went, "What?" And I was like, "Okay, cool, no worries." And I just let her go, right? So her response was basically like, "What do you want?" You know? And of course, in that moment, literally it happened. She walked off. This is a very busy area. This is a street called Tottenham Court Road. So it's a very busy area. And she says what in that sort of frustrated tone of voice. She walks off, and I'm just standing there. And I stand there like this, and I look around, and I make a point to just like sort of soak it in. And then I laugh to myself, and I go, okay, cool. Next one. And then I went in for another approach, and another one, and another one. And so I think it's worth dialing in on this particular reaction, because that reaction in the past would have hurt me. Because imagine I'm going in there with the intention to compliment this girl. She actually looked really good. Like, she had a really great outfit. She was obviously really hot. And so I'm going in there with the intention to compliment her. Yet this is the reaction I get, right? Like that can be a gut punch to the ego. But because I've done this so many times, it didn't matter anymore. I was like, I don't care, right? And and it's funny because in that moment, like I maybe for a split second I felt bad about it. And then I realized who gives a fuck? Let me just keep on going. Who cares? And I'm so glad that happened because it was one of those approaches where in the past, yeah, it would have just bogged me down. It would have derailed me a bit. I would have questioned myself for sure because she was like a super attractive girl. And so whenever those kind of girls reject you and you haven't had any experiences with them yet, then you start telling yourself, oh, she reacted that way because she thinks that I'm beneath her or like I'm not worthy or I'm XYZ. But of course I've already had romantic experiences with girls who are really attractive. In fact, the latest girl that I recently got with in Thailand, the Finnish girl, she was a 9 out of 10, like undeniable. So in my head I'm thinking her reaction doesn't have any bearing on my sense of self-worth. I don't give a fuck. Who cares? Right? She just, for all I know, she's having a bad day. For all I know, she has a boyfriend and her boyfriend just texted her some bullshit. For all I know, her cat just died. Maybe she's having an argument with her parents. Maybe she just had a bad day at work. Today's Wednesday. Maybe she just got off work and she's not happy. She just got a bad review from her boss. Maybe her coworkers are pissing her off. The truth is, I don't know. And so in the past, like there's this tendency to want to question everything. Oh, what did I do wrong? Like, is it something about me? Like, why would she say this? Like, I wonder why it went wrong. I wonder why she gave me that reaction. But it's just going around in circles and doing nothing. It's like there's no point. There's no point in actually like taking it too seriously, especially in my case where I've done enough reps, I've been coached, I've had good experiences, I've been with hot chicks before. Like I can tick all those boxes with confidence and say, okay, I have all this evidence of like success. I have all this hard work that I've put. I've got this entire catalog of approaches. And then I have this one reaction that's unfavorable. Am I going to let that one reaction completely invalidate all these positive experiences? Of course not, right? So that was a pivotal time point in the day because I'm so happy I did not let my head drop one bit. And even more so, I laughed it off. I just laughed it because it's not that deep. I don't care anymore. And I think I'm realizing even now, and I feel this way more, not even just when I'm approaching, but just in general. I genuinely don't give a fuck about so many things now, and I'm getting to that. I'm really getting to that point where I like it takes a lot to really like either rile me up or put me down. You know, like it's just I've just become so much like emotionally neutral, and so that was a pivotal approach for sure. Um, and then so funnily enough, after that I went to get some lunch at shout out to Farmer Jay's healthy lunch, and then I of course I had a bit of a break, and then I finish my lunch and I get back out, and I give myself like 35 minutes more to do some approaches, and so I get out, and as soon as I get out, I walk towards Tottenham Court Road, and then I see this girl, and yeah, she's got like some piercings, like some cool tats, and yeah, approach her, get in front of her, again, loud, commanding, people can hear me, like making sure that I'm making this as obvious as possible. Lots of gesturing as well, because again, she had earphones. And yeah, stopped her. We had a nice conversation. So this is the girl that gave me her Instagram. I think the conversation was nice. You know, it wasn't anything special. I think there were some points where it was a little bit flirty, but we didn't get much time because she told me she was off to the gym and she just finished studying and she was kind of tired. So I could tell that that was her way of kind of telling me to wrap up the convo. And then there was a point where I let some silence sit just to see if she would ask me some questions. And she did. She asked me what I was up to, and that sort of kept the conversation going again. But I could quickly feel it losing steam. And so eventually she did say, well, I need to go and get to the gym and get to work and stuff. And I said, okay, cool. I won't hold you for long, but I want to take you out for drinks. She went, and then her reaction was basically, she smiled and went, yeah, okay, sure. And in my head, as soon as I heard that, I thought, okay, she's uncertain and she's going to give me some details, but I don't expect this to go anywhere just based on that reaction. And then after that, she also said, I'm quite busy with essays and stuff, so I don't know when I can go out. And I said, and obviously I told her, look, I'm not saying we have to go out now, no rush, whenever we can make our schedules work. So obviously I kept it vague, and obviously I'm going to Kenya on Friday, which I think I already told her in the conversation. So I don't think we're gonna see each other before Kenya anyway. So yeah, I didn't bother like trying to put anything in the calendar like that. But yeah, I took the IG and then let her go on her way. So that was like, I guess that was the one and only like contact detail that I got in the day. Um, so yeah, that happened, and then there was the girl that I met on Regent Street. So yeah, so this is a good approach, right? Because this was in stark contrast to the approach that I had the from the black girl who like blew me out in that way, right? So this approach was, I think she was Spanish. I think she was Spanish. And I approached her, gave her the compliment, and she loved it, right? She really appreciated it. She said, she told me she had a boyfriend, but she said, I'm really proud and really happy that you came up to me and gave me the compliment. It means a lot. And, she was basically trying to say that she respected it, right? And so, we have these like two completely opposite reactions, right? On earlier in the day, some girl tells me that she's not interested and she's like very unhappy about the fact that I'm here stopping her in her tracks. So I have that like example. But then in the same day, maybe 40 minutes later, I get a girl who's smitten that I approached her. She's happy. She's egging me on. She's telling me keep on doing this, right? She's smiling, she's happy. And I've probably made her day, made her evening, right? So the key thing to acknowledge is I'm the same person. It's still me. I'm the same person who approached the other girl. So clearly it doesn't make any sense to get too worked up about any negative result, because there can always be a good approach around the corner. So again, I already know this, but it's worth stating that fact because that's what code approach is. You just keep on shooting, you keep on putting reps in, and then eventually you have a turn of fortune, because it's just the law of averages, right? The more you shoot, the more you close. So that was um that was a nice sort of polar opposite reaction to get. Um, and then I had a bold traffic light stop. So, I saw this girl and then I turned around and she got to the traffic lights where there's the crossing. And so the crossing was red, so she was stood still and there were a few people around. And I thought, I've done this before, let me just get right in front of her and face the crowd, face the audience. Um, and so yeah, it was a bold stop for sure. And this was good because what I did was she was on her phone and she had like one earphone in. No, she had both earphones in actually. And so I made sure to get in front first, like so literally be right in front. And then I also wanted to like get her attention before I really said anything. So I got in front, I kind of gestured like this, and then she put her head up like that. And then I was like, Excuse me." And then she took her thing out and I said, "Can you hear me now?" And then she went, "Yes." And then I gave her the compliment. So this was a nice one because I think this was the most measured approach I had. Like it was a very slow, like step by step process of getting her attention, gesturing, having her make eye contact with me, and then just adding some more layering just to get her full attention so that she knew what I was doing. And then I gave the compliment. And so I think teeing it up that way with that sort of slow pace was good. And she lit up, but unfortunately she had a boyfriend and she kept it pushing. But yeah, that was a ballsy approach. That was a ballsy approach for sure. Um, And then I guess the last highlight of the day in terms of approaches was this Chinese British girl that I approached. So this was literally the last approach of the day. And yeah, I just got in front of her. I didn't get right in front of her, but my commanding voice was loud enough to get her to stop. I think I sort of went, "Excuse me." Then she went, "Yeah," and then she kept on walking a little bit, and I said, "Just 2 seconds," and then I just planted myself. So instead of continuing to walk, I could have continued to walk and then like angled around her, but I just decided to just plant myself and like if she wanted to keep on walking once I'd stopped, then so be it. But I stopped and then she eventually stopped. but she was inside. She was sort of like in that sideways position, which I don't like. I don't like giving the compliment when she's kind of angled sideways rather than facing in front of me. But I had her full attention, and she stopped, so that was good. And then yeah, I gave her the compliment, and yeah, she liked it. We spoke for a bit. She was like a fashion student. No, sorry, she told me she was a sculptor. So she was like a sculptor, and she was on her way to some art gallery. And then we had a bit of back and forth. I asked her what she's doing, and I told her that I was there to do a bit of shopping as well. And it was I thought this convo was gonna go somewhere. It was a bit of a shame because I felt she wasn't really like as the conversation went, she was more engaged. She sort of stuck in there a bit longer, and I thought that she would. I thought that it was going well, and that I could build on top of the initial open, but eventually I let some silence grow, and then yeah, I could kind of feel her, like she did that thing where you're talking and then she sort of like turns again and then like makes a slight step towards the side as if to say, okay, like I want to wrap this up now. And so I called it out, right? I called it out and I went, oh, I can feel you walking away. Is this your way of softly rejecting me? That's what I said. And I said it with a smile on my face. And she went, yeah. And I went, okay, cool. Well, the compliment still stands, and have a nice evening. And then she left. And then I left. And that's it. Happily ever after. But so yeah, those were like the main highlights of the day. I had a couple of other conversations, but yeah, the others didn't really go anywhere. Obviously I had a few where I just couldn't stop the girl. Those awkward ones where like you get her attention and then like she's still walking and you didn't get in front of her, and then she's like kind of like and then like she's stepping away and you're like, oh, I'm trying to give the compliment, but she's far away, so you can't really give it to her properly. I was like, whatever, those happen. um but yeah, but to be fair, like I didn't get any like surprise, like really, let's say, bad reactions. The worst was just the one where the girl went, what, like that was the worst. I guess the ones that were slightly below that were just the cases where the girl looked slightly confused and didn't really stop. Oh no, to be fair, there was one approach where like this girl had earphones in, and I really tried to get her attention, and then she literally looked at me as I'm gesturing, and then she just like crossed the road. She crossed the road, and I was like, okay, it is what it is. Those ones can be like a bit tough to deal with as well, because you're wondering like, damn, like is something wrong with me? Like, what did I do? Like, do I have something on my nose? Like, is like my breath whatever? Like, obviously I was far away, so I don't think that was an issue. But you're just thinking, damn, like, you want to cross the street. Let me just say hi to some people. Obviously, I've got a few trolls in the comments, but we keep it moving. I don't really give a fuck. Destroyer Z says, where are you from? I'm from the UK, but I'm also Kenyan. Yapping. Nice one, bro. Lepso, I don't know who you are, but hello, man. Hello, he says, hello, Ians. Sundown, what's up, funny boy? LTR says, you should go live more, showing culture and interactions with women. Yeah, maybe I'll do that in the future. But I appreciate the comments. Kenish said hi. What's up, one Kenish? How's it going, brother? Yeah, so those are the highlights. Now, in terms of how I feel, like how do I feel after the session? I mean, my general feeling is fine. I feel fine. Like, I'm not gonna allow a session like this to put me down. Honestly, you can tell I don't really care that much. Because like I said before, I've been here before, been down this road, had days like this, and I don't read too much into how it went. I don't want to, you know, take too much from it and make all these assumptions about where I'm at. I don't think I've regressed. I haven't regressed. I haven't lost the source. I didn't have to, I didn't leave the session thinking, man, like, was my outfit not good? Like, was my my bleached jacket a bad choice? Was my white t-shirt not white enough? Like, was my hat not cool enough? Maybe I should have done this. I don't think like that. I just accepted it, right? I can just accept it. So I'm fine. I feel completely fine. And yeah, I just know that there are always going to be better days around the corner, so I don't need to latch onto this one too much. I guess there is a little bit of frustration because I put in a lot of reps and I was out there for maybe about just under 2 hours, and I really like put in reps, and I decided, you know what, since it's going to be my last session in London for the year, since I'm going to Kenya on Friday, I was like, I would ideally like to get something set up, or at least get some like solid details, like contact details. So for that not to be the case was a little bit frustrating. I'm not gonna lie, because like I said, I had an intention before I went out, right? I wanted to try and at the best get a, like, best case scenario today would have been I get a date tonight, right? And I'll be on a date right now. And then let's say a good scenario would have been I get some good details that I can work on, and then when I'm back from Kenya in the new year, I could maybe pursue them a little bit further. But that wasn't the case. So yeah, you're always going to be disappointed. We're human. I'm a human, boys. I'm not a robot. I hope I don't sound robotic. I am a human with feelings, and I get disappointed. So it is what it is, right? So there was some frustration, but I was very, I was very careful to not be too annoyed or too frustrated, because I've been here before. So I don't want to be too negative, because it's just part of the process. Um, and then yeah, I think another feeling I had was pride. I was actually very proud of myself. And the reason why I was proud is because I was very emotionally like resilient, and I persevered a lot. Like I said about that blowout, right? In the past, that blowout would have affected me. And not just that one, but just the fact that the conversations weren't going where I wanted them to go, and I wasn't getting the results I wanted, even like halfway through the session. And so, and of course, in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, well, this is my only session, so I'm really hoping it goes better than it was. And so, but the fact that I didn't allow myself to get too negative is really, really, um, like just it's a great place that I'm at right now. Um, it's like like the fact that I kept on going in, and more importantly, I kept on going in for approaches without losing too much enthusiasm. Yeah. And so I think this is a nice way to segue into something that surprised me. Although I guess in hindsight, I'm not too surprised now, because I've been coached, and I've had enough approaches where I know how to manage my mindset and my inner dialogue. But that's something that really um, surprised me, which is I was so positive when I was getting blown out. So whenever I'd get blown out, I'd be like, cool, next one, cool, next one. And there were even points where I was telling myself, look, there's a temptation to want to take a step back, take a second, and audit and think, is something wrong with me? And so I knew that as I was getting the blowouts. And so my brain just immediately reverted to positive thoughts. So I was just telling myself, keep on going, just keep on owning the approach. Who cares what these people think? Like, let's just keep on going. You haven't lost the source. You've still got it. Don't forget all the success you've had. Don't forget all the hot chicks you've been with. Don't forget all the reps you've put in. I was even telling myself, like, bro, you own these streets. Like, you're the most confident person here. Who cares? Keep going. If you get blown out, next one, next one, next one. None of this has to be attached to your self-worth. Like, I was just like positively, like, just brainwashing myself with these really forward-thinking thoughts and messages. And yeah, it was so powerful, because it just kept me optimistic. It kept me sort of level-headed, and it didn't allow me to fall into that self-critical, um, let's say, mode, which is what I was guilty of in the past, right? Especially if I had days like this, and especially if I had certain blowouts, like that black girl who gave me that blowout. So it is like there's a lot of progress there. And I guess the reason it was surprising is because I've always been a very negative, like, let's say, self-critic when it came to how I viewed myself in this whole like dating sort of journey. And I think just the progress I've made in the past few months, especially having been coached and also going to Thailand, I think it's quite immense. It's quite crazy, really, because it's a completely different mindset. Um, I think this is why it's important to also do solo approach, right? So, cold approach is much better and easier and more fun when you have a wingman, when you have somebody with you, because you have that safety net. and you can go back and forth. They can give you good feedback. They can have a laugh with you, and it just makes the process easier to manage, especially when it's not going as well as you want it to. But I think solo approach also has its worth, right? And the reason I think it has its worth, and I think it's even more valuable in some sense than approaching with a wingman, is because when you're out there on the streets and you're on your own, and it's you, it kind of feels like it's you against the world, and you're still battling those insecurities, and you're wondering, what do these people think? And you're wondering, am I a piece of shit? Is that why these girls aren't stopping for me? Is this why they're not interested in me? You know, it's so easy to go down that negative spiral. And when you get to a point where you've developed enough resiliency and maturity and just balls, like big balls, yeah, like when you've developed those big balls to just go in again and again with conviction in front of everyone, you become different. Yeah, and it's a special place to be, and I don't think a lot of guys can honestly say that they're at that point in their life where they've developed this amount of like emotional toughness. And it's great because what it does is it forces you to be like, you sort of have to be your own coach. You know, we talk about self-auditing, right? Because I don't have anybody next to me. So I have to coach myself through this process by myself in my head. It's almost as if I have to like develop multiple personalities. And so I noticed something today, right? Like I have like nowadays I have this sort of two-sided like voice in my head, right? It's like I've got the sort of empathetic, let's say brotherly, you could even argue like motherly side that sort of, it sort of puts its arm around my shoulder and goes, it's okay, keep on going, you're not a piece of shit, you're fine, mate, give yourself some grace, you're out here, like you're getting battered a few times, but you're still out here, like maintain optimism. And it's a more like empathetic, encouraging voice in my head that again just keeps me positive. But then I have the other voice in my head that's a much more like a coach, right? Like a constructively critical like voice that tries to identify where I could improve, right? With just full honesty, right? So of course I've done enough reps and I've been coached, and I know areas that I tend to slip up on when I'm not seeing the results I want. So I know where I could make a few tweaks here and there. And so even though I've said it before, right, I don't try to think too much about those because a lot of the time it's just minutia. It's not like a deal breaker where this particular aspect of the approach is completely derailing me. I think it's more so just make a few tweaks here and there to increase my chances. But ultimately it's still good to have that constructive voice that pick certain let's say weaknesses or sticking points that might be cropping up in my approach. So I have both of those voices, and I think I've found a good balance between them, right? I know when to be more empathetic to myself, and but I also know when I need to give myself a kick up the ass and be like, bro, like be louder, or bro, like act quicker, like you're not acting as fast as you could. You like deep down inside I know I could act faster, right? And so that's what like having somebody like Ephraim next to me does. Like he can see it when he's here. So because of the fact that I've had him by my side, I've just essentially installed that voice in my own head, all right, so that I can also audit myself properly without letting myself off the hook. But it's a balance, right? And so this is why it's good to be solo, because you develop that emotional resiliency, right? And it's good because if you don't develop that muscle, if you don't develop that, let's say, wider perspective and that emotional neutrality, then it's going to be very draining. You'll be drained after tough sessions like this. It'll be very difficult to recover. You'll be way too much in your head, and it will show through in your approaches. You'll become more needy. You'll feel this need to stop the girl all the time, and that will come across as more desperate, and your mechanics will probably slip. So yeah, there's always I think there's a big benefit to yeah, just developing that emotional resilience for sure. um and yeah, I think ultimately, I think a big reason why it's easier for me to have these days is because I've already had the good experiences. I have hard evidence that I can get the results I want. So I don't need to read too much into these bad ones, right? And so how did I get there? Reps. Lots and lots of reps. Shooting again and again and again as much as I could, getting more and more positive reference experiences, taking and then breaking massive self-limiting beliefs, especially when it came to, you know, getting like having romantic experiences with top tier girls, with like the really hot girls, because again, that was a big mental hang up for me. Like I always thought I couldn't get those girls. So now that I've had them, it's like when I get blown out by a few of them, I don't care. I really don't care. Like it doesn't affect me that much, right? And I just know that the more experiences I have, the better I'll get at this, right? And the more I'll be able to just continue moving forward. So yeah, that was the session. I think one more thing that I'll mention is I think at some level I'm like a bit of a masochist. You know, I think at some level I kind of I take a thrill. There's a thrill in pursuing something that's fairly painful and ego destroying. I think it's just I find so much less, I don't want to say joy, but it's just somewhat exciting. Because there were points where like especially after I got blown out by that black girl, and she said, you know, she was like, "Wait, what do you want?" You know, it was funny. I almost kind of felt like I was like, you know what, I can take it. Like in my head, I was like, you know what, I want another reaction like that. Like if I get another reaction like that, I'll take it on the chin. Let's go. I can take anything. You know, I want everybody to laugh. I mean, I didn't take it that far, but like the point is like I got to a point where I was like, I just don't give a fuck. You can throw anything at me. You can punch my ego as much as you want. You can blow me out in the most embarrassing way as much as you want in front of the entire city of 9 million Londoners. Give it to me, I'll take it. I don't give a fuck. And so like there was a point where that was kind of going through my head and I was like, yeah, I can take this. And I think that was my way of just coping and being like, dude, like none of this matters. Who cares? Like as as embarrassing as it might feel in the moment, ultimately, who cares? I'm gonna die one day, they're gonna die one day, all the opinions of people will die one day, and we're on this floating rock that's hurling through space at God knows how fast in infinite space. And I'm only going to be here for maybe another 70 years, God willing. So who cares that this one girl gave me a like a blowout that hurt my dear ego? Like who cares? And so I almost just gained this new sense of confidence, and I jolted at the fact that if it happens again, I'm gonna smile again and I'm gonna go again and I'm gonna keep on approaching and approaching and approaching and approaching. And if I get what I want, cool. And if I don't, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna eat my my nice chicken curry pasta that I have in my fridge. I'm gonna do this live stream. I'm gonna drink some nice Robinson squash, call it a night, and then guess what? I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning and be completely fucking fine. I'm gonna wake up, the sun will rise, and I'll smell the fresh air of this small town I live in, and then I'll have to pack my bags for Kenya, and then life will move on. And so like that's my perspective now. It's like I have this well-rounded, reasonable, not even just reasonable, but just it's like an accurate perspective on how unserious all of this is, despite the fact despite the fact that it feels serious in the moment. And again, like I said before in my last live stream, I think I said this, but like if you can get to a point where you just don't care that much, then you become unstoppable. You become a weapon. And I hope that you boys get to that point as well, or you're getting close to that point, because that's truly what allows you to just remain optimistic. And if you can really keep that glass half full mentality when you're getting blown out time and time again, then the universe will reward you for your perseverance. It will happen at some point. And so I'm just glad that I'm at that place now where I can shrug it off, you know, just brush it off the shoulder and remain optimistic and smile through it. So yeah, I'm very happy that's how it went. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I'm just looking at a few notes here. I would say, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was the session. So, do you boys have any questions? Hassan says, "Bro, where do you live in?" I live in a small town west of London. I live near Reading. That's as much as information I'll give. I don't want to give my complete town. Although I'll be leaving soon. So next year I plan to move abroad, I want to move to Bangkok once I get my new career, my new job sorted out. Um, so yeah, the plan is to leave the UK, not permanently. I have property here. I'm still tied to this country, and I mean, I still love this country. It's my home, but yeah, planning to move out soon. We've got 6 people in the chat on the stream. But yeah, are there any other questions before I dip out? Yeah, I think that's it really from me. But yeah, if there aren't any questions, then yeah, I guess just to end, this will be, yeah, my last session of 2025. Yeah, my last session in the UK for this year. I probably will approach in Kenya a few times, not much because I'm gonna be so busy. I'll be with family for most of the time. I'll be with friends. I've got a friend's wedding out there. So who knows? Maybe I'll do more night game because my friends. I have a lot of friends in Kenya, and they typically invite me to nights out, bars, etc., house parties, which is pretty common at this time of the year since it's the festive period. So yeah, maybe I'll have some stories there, but I'll definitely be filming content when I get out there. And yeah, I guess I'll keep your boys updated on that. But yeah, it's been a hell of a year. Maybe I'll do like a wrap up stream at the end of the year, just to talk about the year as a whole. But yeah, it's really cool to sort of take a step back and review how far I've come. So because funny, whenever I go to London for a session, I always pretty much find myself going to Covent Garden because it's very close to where my station is. And so Covent Garden is where I did my first approach, right? Way back last year, September 14th, 2024. And yeah, I just like it's just nice. It's nice to always go back to that spot. I mean, I even remember the spot, right? And I always go back to that spot every time. And there's these pivotal moments in my journey where, that was the place that I first approached way back last year. And then I remember when I came back from Belgrade and I got extra coaching from Ephraim. And then we were in that same spot, but this time I had him by my side, having just done an immersion. And of course, the growth that I had experienced between that point and the first approach I did at that same place was massive. And then, of course, now, most recently, I went to Thailand, had a bunch of good experiences there, and I've come back from Thailand again with so much more growth under my belt, way more confidence, and and so to go back to that same spot today and to just sort of stand around there and soak it in, I was just like, wow, I've come so far. Like I've come so far with approach and my confidence and my emotional resiliency and just my overall aura. It's just way more. It's just brighter, stronger, and I think when I did that first approach last year in September, I don't know if I truly believed that I could make this much progress in that amount of time. I mean, to be honest with you, I just started. I was ignorant. I just started because I was desperate to sort out my dating life. So I guess I didn't go into it with too many expectations. But yeah, so much has happened since then, and I still see this as just the beginning, right? So there's so much more so many more experiences, so much more growth, and yeah, I'm only gonna get better, And like bearing in mind it's winter here, so once the new year rolls around and I'm traveling a bit more, and again, hopefully I have my career sorted out fairly early, and I can be remote, then I mean it's only gonna get better. So the future's looking bright. LTR 3281 says, how come you don't do more live streams showing culture and interactions with women? What do you mean by that? I'm a little bit confused. You want me to do live streams showing culture? Do you mean like you want me to do live streams with girls in the live stream? Or do you mean you want me to post more content of me like doing infields? I'm genuinely curious, LTR. Like, could you just clarify? We still got 3 people in the stream. What's up? What's up? It's always weird. I always forget that I'm talking to people who are actually like behind the screen, like real people, and this is happening live. Um, Although who knows? Maybe you could all be bots, and this is all fake, and we're living in a simulation. So in that case, then the joke's on me. uh, but yeah, I mean, if okay, I'll answer your question. Assuming that you're saying that I should do more infields and show more interactions with me and the girls, then yeah, I plan on releasing more of those. In fact, I'll be editing more of those videos in the coming days. So I have some infills that I had filmed of me a few months ago in Belgrade. So I'm just gonna post those on my channel. Those are the only ones I have at the moment. And then next year, I plan to go to a few European countries. And so I'll probably be filming more infields out in those countries, maybe Spain, maybe Italy, who knows. But yeah, that would be part of the plan. So yes, I will post those. More live streams showing entertainment culture and interactions with people and women in real life, not videos. Oh, okay. Okay. So you kind of mean like having a live stream where I'm like showing interactions. I mean, that's not really my thing, to be honest. I've never thought about that type of live stream content. I typically want to use these live streams just to talk about either sessions and give you my raw, authentic thoughts right afterwards, or maybe use the live stream to talk about a certain topic that's front of mind for me. I don't really plan on doing live streams out in real life. I mean, I'll probably do live streams when I'm walking around. Um, like if you've seen my vlogs, sometimes I vlog when I'm in public. So maybe that. Although to your point, mate, I mean, there's I thought about this. I would definitely like to do like an interview style video where I go out into the streets of, I don't know, London or any other city in Europe, and I ask girls their thoughts on being approached and that sort of thing. And I wanna approach it from my perspective rather than the typical red pill perspective, which is like, they ask these stupid questions like, would you rather marry a 6 foot guy with no money or a 5'3" or I don't know, like a 4'2" guy with millions of dollars in the bank? And they ask all these like loaded questions to drunk girls on the street, in Miami at 3 a.m. Like I want to do something different like that, right? I don't want to do that. I want to maybe ask girls just good questions like, you know, would you want to be approached? Have you ever been approached? What were your thoughts when you got approached? Did you feel like, did you like it? Did you not like it? If you didn't like it, could you be specific? If you liked it, what did you like? Um, yeah, so I want to do those kind of videos. You said, trust me, if you do that, your channel will grow fast. Oh, you're saying if I do street interviews, my channel will grow fast? Maybe, yeah, maybe. But I don't want that to be my channel though, because I want my channel to just be focused on code approach and code approach from my perspective, and how I do it and my experiences, my journey, of course, also showing infields of my technique and the results I get from that. Because I want it to be more, let's say, educational for guys who actually want to approach, rather because I think the interview style content, it can be very entertaining and people get some value from it because you get to see the perspective of women. But again, it's like you're interviewing women. They're not those. Let's say I do 10 interviews and I get like 7 good interactions on those recordings. Like that's not a representative of everybody. So these women aren't going to be spokespeople for like the majority of women. And so I think there's always that danger that guys read too much into women's responses. And of course, I'm going to be fully transparent. Like I'll just release all the interviews, assuming that they give me good answers or they give me proper answers, regardless of whether they're positive or negative. So if I go out into the street and I interview 10 women and they all tell me I don't want to be approached, then I'll just release that. But I'm sure like that's why I want to, if I do that kind of content, I want to make sure that I'm not being too biased, right? Because I think the overwhelming majority of women want to be approached. They just want to be approached in the right way, in a respectful way. And I think hopefully those interviews don't give like an opposite message. Anyway, that's it. That's the live stream. It's been a good one, and until next time, boys. So peace out.